Hello, glorious souls. Welcome to your Soul Service Astrology update for the 5th of December, 2022. This week's theme is trust and surrender. And that's trusting and surrendering to the processes that you're going through in ending non-attachment and non-judgment. Two things that humans just love to continually revolve around. So welcome. If you've not met me, I'm Kel. I'm a 13-sign sidereal astrologist. So the astrology that you're going to get on this channel is a little bit different to all the other astrology that you will find elsewhere on the internet. It is matched to what you can observe in the sky. And that's really important, because if we're going to come back into connection with our environment, and we're going to come back into that knowledge and the knowing that we are the environment, we have to be observing the environment. We have to be part of the environment. We have to be interacting and in relation to the environment. So we need to be looking at the sky, the seasons, our environment, our local environment. And that's what's going to help us come back into connection with our communities, with the world around us, and we'll be able to create from that space whatever needs to be created. See, I'm trying to end judgment as to how we can use that energy. All right, so if you're in a rush, I'm going to give a little synopsis of the energy that's coming up this week. Now, as always, this is not something for you to just listen to and run off and go, that's nice. This is applied astrology. I want you to connect with it. I want you to connect with yourself, and I want you to connect with your environment, the environment and the season that you're in. I want you to notice how you feel. What thoughts are coming up? What stories are you telling yourself? What instances are happening around you in relation to others? And not necessarily just humans. Are there relations that keep popping up with more than human beings, namely plants and animals, perhaps the sky? All right, so this week we've got a couple of the personal planets changing signs into Sagittarius. So you might think, well, hang on a minute, we've skipped a sign, we've skipped Ophiuchus. Libra, Scorpio, Ophiuchus are all quite, they have a small amount of degrees on the ecliptic, so they're all quite small. And there's a lot of processing that happens through there. We don't want those signs to be enormous. We don't want to be in the underworld for too long. We don't want to be sitting in our vulnerability for too long. But when we go in, it's quite powerful and impactful. So we're moving out of Scorpio season. The sun this week will move into Ophiuchus. So you might be feeling a little bit vulnerable. And the sun is our creative energy. So the season that I'm in at the moment is the growth season. So the sun is increasing here. Things are likely to be coming to fruition. And when you have a creative project, whatever it might be, come to fruition, there's a certain amount of vulnerability because it's about to go out into the world. And that's certainly happening for me. So when we sit in our vulnerability and we can lean into it and trust it and surrender to it, that's the theme of the week, that's when alchemy starts occurring. That's when you start to break down the stories that you've been telling yourself. That's when you start to lean into the unknown and you welcome in whatever, without judgment, might be coming your way. You're opening yourself to the energetic field. And that's another flavor that's happening this week. There is a bit of interaction with Jupiter in Pisces. Jupiter in Pisces is that knowledge that we are part of a unified field. We are part of the miasma of energy that surrounds us. And if you don't believe me, stop breathing. You are constantly inhaling and exhaling the elements of this universe. You are constantly consuming the elements of this universe, not just this earth, this universe, predominantly this earth, of course. So that's how interconnected we are. Now, the other two signs, the other two planets that are changing signs are Mercury and Venus, and they're moving into Sagittarius. So while we are coming out and stepping into our vulnerability, we're also stepping into potentiality. We're stepping into excitement and celebration. So while you might be sitting with some vulnerability of a creative project coming to fruition and ready to move out into the world, and you're going to show people and put your heart on display, there's alchemy in that. you're also going to be joyful about it. You're like, this is a dream realized. There's excitement. The mind gets to be excited and joyful and grateful for this opportunity that you've had to create what it is that you've created. And with Venus, there's a way that we can connect with that, and we can connect with that to share with others around us in our community. And also, that's a very regenerative process. We're regenerating ourselves higher and higher towards our beliefs and our dreams. Now, the idea here with the trust and surrender process this week is that as you continue to lean in that without non-attachment and to judgment, and that we're going to get something, because us humans like getting things, we get addicted to it. The dream is that you will receive something beyond your wildest dreams. So that's why I feel conflicted sometimes talking about Jupiter and dreams, because we can't possibly dream beyond what it is that we know. But if we surrender and trust and have non-attachment and judgment and lean in from our heart space, the potential, what's going to flow in, through and in and around us is huge. And it could be something beyond your wildest dreams. They're the words I was looking for. Now, having said that, that's the beautiful energy that's swirling this week. We do have a full moon this week in Taurus. So there's the opportunity to surrender and release any attachment to material things. So in shadow, Taurus energy would be attached to material things. That's my success. That's my abundance, that thing. Well, it's not. It's just a thing. So we're surrendering our attachment to our material possessions as our signifier of success, our signifier that we have stuff. And we're trusting and surrendering to that process. We also have Jupiter square Mercury and Venus. Now, Jupiter in Pisces, as I previously mentioned, is this expansion principle beyond the known. You're leaning into the unknown. You're trusting, surrendering to the field around you. You're leaning into your instinct and imagination. Now, the ego doesn't like that. So the personal planet, it's squaring the personal planets of the mind and the body. So the ego lives in the mind and the body. And if we want to expand into a potentiality beyond our wildest dreams, we're going to have to let our ego get out of the way. But sometimes, of course, that can feel that there's this inner tension, and I would refer to those as fear. It might come up as negative emotions. It might come up as limiting beliefs. It might come up as resistance, procrastination. It might come up as arguments with loved ones. So we're trying to realize that actually there is no problem here. There is nothing to solve. Our ego doesn't have any stories. They're all just words and stories. So if we want to lean into our potentiality on an even greater scale, can we drop our attachment to these stories that we continually tell ourselves? And can we drop our attachment to the physical aspect of our existence and expand beyond what is known? And I keep saying that. I keep saying that. So they're the opportunities that you get to step into this week. I would encourage you to take that information, notice how you feel, not what your mind's telling you. Look, your mind might be telling you stories this week, and that's key. If your mind is telling you a story, and it's been revolving around your head for a bit, that's the story that's got to go. And there'll be lessons in that story for you to release and surrender it and to let it go. It's just a story. It's thoughts, it's words. And then it's expanding into this principle of non-attachment and non-judgments, and multiple spiritual practices have those as core values, core ethical principles for us to lean into, to become non-attached and to be not judging. And if we can trust and surrender the process, then you're letting in your wildest dreams, beyond your wildest dreams, the potentiality that can flow through you. So notice how you feel, what comes up for you, journal it out, get into nature, stick your hands in the soil, hug a tree, watch the birds, and notice what's going on around you, and have a glorious week. Now, if you want to hang around for the detail, I'm going to show you the chart and we'll dive into the archetypal detail together. So there's Mondays. That's not Monday. Let's go back to Monday the 5th, Kel. Always something, isn't it? If you watch me. Okay, so on Monday, we have Mercury moving into Sagittarius. So Mercury is our mind. It's also stories. It's the storyteller. It's the teacher. It's the learner. It's starting to shift into Sagittarius. It's going to spend quite a bit of time in Sagittarius because later in December, Mercury is going to go retrograde. So now is the time to allow your mind to be joyful, to seek information that it's desiring to seek, to be curious, to seek into wonderment, to celebrate what it is that you've achieved this year. So while there is also that element of not going off into too much of a tangent now, we don't want the mind to go too far out because then to bring it back and to focus and consolidate is a little bit harder. But there is definitely an opportunity here to allow yourself to celebrate what it is that your mind and the teacher and the student within you has achieved this year. Celebrate that. And then as we move into Tuesday, the 6th of December, I'll talk about the Jupiter square Mercury. So Jupiter is that expansive principle. It's going beyond the known. And definitely in Pisces, Pisces is collective consciousness, is the unified field, it's our imagination, it's our intuition, it's very much beyond words. So that expansion principle beyond the known is to move more deeply and to expand more into your mystical intelligence. That means all your intelligences, not privileging the mind. So the opportunity here is to trust and surrender the process, to become non-attached to the analytical mind. So that's why I said we don't want to expand it and just explore and let the mind absorb all this information, because that's really easy to do in our age. We have a lot of information. Jupiter wants us to expand more into connection with everything, not just to expand and go and seek heaps of information. So that inattention there for you to go and, oh, I want to learn this, or I want to teach that, I'm going to do that, I'm going to put that on my list. Counter that with, how can I expand more into the pathway, into my soul's calling, into my soul's service by connecting in with consciousness that is around me, by listening with my other senses rather than just with my mind. So that is the Jupiter square energy there. That's the opportunity. And I'm always going to talk about an opportunity. What I do each week is I notice how I feel. I notice what's coming up. You'll start to notice patterns and cycles because we are cyclic beings. Lean into them because they have information for you. So let's move to Wednesday, the 7th of December. The sun moves into Ophiuchus. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, creative energy is the sun. It's our heart space. It's how we want to shine into the world. Now, as we come into fruition, I'm in a fruition cycle at the moment. If you're in the Northern Hemisphere, you're in the rot cycle. So there might be things that you're really letting go of, and you've let go of it, and there's a vulnerability around you letting go of it. So that's a creative part of us. In the Southern Hemisphere, there might be something that has come to fruition. Now, this is what came up for me this week. It's not necessarily a physical thing that's come to fruition. It might be an internal opening that you didn't realize was happening. And now you've stepped out as a completely different person because a whole aspect of you has shifted and changed and grown. And now you get to show that to the world. And there's a certain amount of vulnerability in doing that when we step out and show that to the world. But that's alchemy. And I want you to know that you have everything that you need within yourself to undertake that process. So whether it's an inner growing, an inner shedding, or an external growing or an external shedding, you have everything that you need to achieve, and you have everything that you need to alchemize in that process. Trust and surrender. Become non-attached. Also on Wednesday the 7th, a little bit of a different energy comes in as opposed to all the other energy, which is quite similar for the rest of the week, is we have Mars still in Taurus, retrograde. So Mars energy is our focus, it's our vitality. It's in Taurus, it's wanting to act in a very down-to-earth, stable, grounded way, much, much slower than what it likes to operate. And when it's retrograde, it's even slower. Now, with the incoming Taurus full moon on Thursday, the 8th, there's the full moon in opposition to the sun. There's really this shedding of our attachment to our physical, our material possessions. We're coming into connection with our physical being. We're coming into connection as our earth, but not as separate, as earth. And again, there's a vulnerability and an alchemy that happens with that, because the sun is fully illuminating this process. I'm being reborn in this process. I'm being initiated in this process to become unattached from an aspect of the physical realm and to truly surrender into the alchemical realm and to trust the process. This full moon, if you were to undertake a ritual or a ceremony under this full moon, make sure earth is involved. Allow yourself to be present with the land on which you reside and which supports you, holds you, encourages you, enables you to flourish. Spend some time with it and listen, not just necessarily with the mind, of course. And I covered the 9th, I covered the 8th. That was the full moon on Thursday, the 8th. And then the energy for the 9th of December is the continuation. Oh, I missed. Venus moves into Sagittarius. So let's just cover that first, and then I'll talk about Jupiter square Venus. Venus shifting into Sagittarius is us being regenerated. We're coming out, we've gone through the underworld. Venus is now making her way back up along further away from the sun, and she'll start to become visible as, I'm pretty sure it's an evening star. She'll start to become visible in December. I think, so very soon. Venus is our regenerative and connective energy. It's also very much our body. Venus was seen as both the love goddess and the goddess of war. So you may have felt that internally. You may have felt love and war in connection with yourself over the last month as we journeyed into our vulnerability. As we move into Sagittarius, our body, our connective ability gets to now expand. It gets to be joyful. It gets to be excited. I move through that process. Now I get to connect outwards. I get to seek and lean into the philosophies that fill me up. And what a great season to start to do that season, where we typically connect more with friends and loved ones. So that's Venus moving into Sagittarius. Jupiter square that energy is making sure that we're still looking after ourselves from a mystical perspective. Now, there might be fears that come up around, okay, I've been through this process, my connective ability to expand beyond what I've known, to really start to bring that creation out into the world, to lean into the unknown as you step out there. And similar with the Mercury energy, it's encouraging you to also do that through imagination, And it could be imagination directed through the body. It could be imagination directed through the sacral center, very much connected to the elements that you see around you. And allow yourself to expand into your other intelligences, not just the mind and the body, expanding into your environmental intelligence, the intelligence that's sitting around you that can support you as well, and allow you to shed any ego attachments to how you might look and how you might feel. We're all beautiful. That could be a fear that could come up. I don't love myself because I don't look a certain way. And we're going to allow ourselves to be joyful and expand into the unknown so that we can transmute that back into what it is, just thoughts and words. So that's the 9th of December. And then for the rest, the 10th and the 11th, there's nothing additional that happens on the weekend. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen there. And I certainly hope I'm still recording because my screen has frozen. If you can hear this, and I certainly hope you can, have a glorious week. If you would like more of these, then please subscribe and follow these. I post these every week. If you would like to work with me, go and visit kellygunter.com. I also have the Soul Service Astrology 2023 planner. It is coming. It starts in March because we're flowing with the seasons and the moons. If you would like to pre-order that, you can do that now. It will be printed in December. I can guarantee you that. So have a glorious week, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye.